Thanks a lot, Michael, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Riccardo Masucci, Global Director of Privacy Policy at Intel, and I have also the pleasure to serve as Chair of the Europe Working Group of the Cybersecurity Coalition. Today, I am honored and delighted to introduce Ambassador Marina Kaljurand, member of the European Parliament, and one of the most influential policymakers here in Brussels on cybersecurity policy issues. Mrs. Kaljurand is also a member of the UN Secretary General Advisory Board on Disarmament. She's also a member of the Global Commission of the Stability of Cyberspace that she also chaired between 2017 and 2019. Ambassador Kaljurand, before being elected member of the European Parliament, served also as a member of the Estonian Parliament, and she represented her country as ambassador to the United States, Canada, Mexico, Israel, and Russia. So she has an outstanding experience on cybersecurity and foreign affairs. So we are really delighted to have her here today. Mrs. Kaljurand, the floor is yours for the opening keynote. Thank you.
Thank you, Riccardo, for your very kind words. Thank you, CyberNextDC, for having me today with you. And it was a real pleasure to listen to Michael. I think it was some 5-6 years ago when we first met, when I was Estonian ambassador to Washington, DC. And Michael was my very good partner, contact, a person whose work I very much admired and still admire. Yes, I'm happy to share some of the thoughts. And today, as the member of the European Parliament, I'm in the LIBE committee, which is the Committee for Liberties, Fundamental Rights, but also Justice and Home Affairs, and many digital topics pass the LIBE committee. And I'm dealing with several digital topics such as digital strategy, but also data strategy, but also terrorist content online and some other topics. But to start with, I would like to say that the COVID crisis accelerated all the digital topics. COVID crisis put digital at the center of all political discussions and political agendas. And finally, the thing happened for what we were looking for years. The digital topics and cybersecurity are being discussed not only by IT people, but are being discussed by policymakers, by CEOs, by those who are in the decision-making positions. So the COVID crisis showed both. It showed the benefits that digitalization has with good connections, accessibility, online services, to the whole society, to economy, to persons. I come from Estonia, where we have had 30 years of digital lifestyle. We have thousands of digital services. So yes, we had the tools for children to do e-schooling. We had the tools for e-police, for e-prescription, e-hospital, but it doesn't mean that all this digitalization should step in and replace real life. So I very much liked Michael's remark about digital having impact on real people, real life, real processes. The COVID crisis has also showed the shortcomings and the challenges that digitalization brings along, starting with attacks on critical infra, attacks on hospitals, on medical data, disinformation campaigns. So it also accelerated. So my first point is, many people have suffered from the COVID crisis, and many poor people will suffer until we will be able to win the pandemic before we have vaccine and appropriate treatment. So let's take advantage of the fact that digital has been put as a political priority by this crisis. Let's not waste this crisis. I think that's our common duty for those people who have suffered and are suffering. In my remarks, I would like to say some words about cooperation from the very multinational level United Nations, then some words about where we are today in Europe. For those with whom I'm more familiar, you know that my key words are cooperation, inclusiveness, multi-stakeholder model, including all the stakeholders into the discussions of cybersecurity. I'm sorry if I repeat myself, but it's important that for the first time in the history of mankind, governments and states do not have absolute and unique right for cybersecurity. They are not able to provide cybersecurity without proper cooperation with stakeholders, with other states, with other governments, with other international organizations. I had the privilege of being on the Secretary General's high-level panel on digital cooperation, which was chaired by Jack Ma and Melinda Gates. It was challenging because it brought together very different views, very different understandings from different fields of activities. But what was clear was that United Nations has its role. I'm not naive. I don't think that in the near future United Nations will have a breakthrough or will do something remarkable in applicability of international law. I don't think that. But United Nations has its role. And when I say it has its role, I mean capacity building, SDGs, confidence building, but also norms of responsible state behavior. And that's why I'm really proud that I was among those who wrote an open letter to the President of the United Nations General Assembly on the 22nd of September this year, where we also mentioned that the declaration dedicated to the 75th anniversary of the United Nations for the first time mentioned member states' commitment to improve digital cooperation and ensure a safe and affordable digital access for all citizens. These are political words, but it is a big thing. It's the first time being said on the level of the United Nations. Why I'm not naive about the United Nations? I've been in the different GGEs, and I was very disappointed with the work of the GG group of governmental experts on cybersecurity of 2017, when we did tremendous job, and we were not able to conclude a consensus report. That was disappointing, but I think it made me more realistic. And that's why I said that UN has its role in capacity building, confidence building, but let's not expect it to do something groundbreaking. What United Nations can do and should do is the future of the discussions on cybersecurity, cyber stability, digitalization. United Nations has the possibility to provide a space and room for stakeholders. And when I say that, for example, one of the examples being IGF, Internet Governance Forum, that is happening these days virtually, and hopefully next time will be again in real life. I think it's going to be in Poland. There is a good platform existing already. It has multi-stakeholders. I have had the opportunity to participate as the chair of the Global Commission on Stability of Cyberspace. I was there as Estonian foreign minister, and this year I participated as parliamentarian. And I would urge all of us to look into that possibility, turning IGF into IGF Plus and providing a platform where different stakeholders can come together, can listen to each other, and can make important decisions. By the way, one of the form of stakeholders that I miss at these discussions are politicians. Members of parliaments, being it national parliament, Congress, being it European Parliament. We do not have them so much there, but we should have more because they are the legislative power. They are the ones who are drafting laws, and they are the ones who have huge impact on what's happening nationally and internationally in this field. Now coming to Europe. The feeling that I have being now for a year and a half in the European Parliament and listening to EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's statements, Europe is feeling that we lost our opportunity. Let's say with private data. We lost our opportunity. We see that foreign platforms are playing much bigger role and are taking much more advantage of the data than Europeans would like it to be. So today we're at a moment where Europe has to look very critically, what have we done wrong? What can we do better? European data strategy was adopted in February this year, and it lays down path towards the creation of European data spaces to ensure that more data becomes available for use in the economy and society while keeping companies and citizens in control of their data. It also says that developing technologies should work for people, and we should have pan-digital solutions. I said I come from Estonia. In the EU, there are 27 different understandings of digitalization of cybersecurity. My country had the experience of 2007, when we had to look once again very seriously at cybersecurity. Today, a lot has to be done on the European level and by member states. I think that we have some very good tools in place on the European level, for example, the digital cyber diplomacy toolbox. We have to start using them more actively. I'm a very strong supporter of attribution. I'm a very strong supporter of application of international law to cyber. So far, it's been more theoretical. We've seen only first examples of attribution on state level and on the level of international regional organizations like EU and NATO. We have to be much more strong there. I understand it has political implications, but still, we have to be strong enough to name the bad guys and to make it clear what is allowed and what is not. Where is the red line and what happens when the red line is being crossed? We saw it during the COVID-19 crisis. And again, I think that's something that we owe to our citizens and to those who have suffered from this crisis. Clear rules and applicability of international law is something where I do not think that United Nations will be able to contribute too much. United Nations can do on norms of responsible state behavior. At the moment, we have two processes in the United Nations, group of governmental experts and open-ended working group. It's good that states have come together, that states are discussing, but it's not good that they're not involving other stakeholders, and it's not good that these processes, although they're designed to be, to feed into each other, I still think they are separate processes, they have separate discussions, they are not united as much as they should be. So what I await from those processes, I await clear commitments by states to international law and also norms, political norms or responsible state behavior. There are 13 of them agreed already. When I chaired the Global Commission on Stability of Cyberspace, we also drafted a couple of norms on the protection of critical infra of electoral systems, on the protection of critical infra of internet, public core of internet. So there are general norms out, which should be in the interests of all states to participate in the norm building and norm application and implementation processes. And finally, I really would like to say thank you to private sector and industry. Because when a couple of years ago, states were not willing to talk to the multi-stakeholders, you continued pushing. You were bringing it to the agenda. You were asking state and governments to react. For me, one of the real successes was the Paris call for trust and security 2 years ago. Now we see UN declaration of dedicated to the UN 75th anniversary. So I can see that world is coming together, and I recognize that. But concrete steps, progress should be made on the regional level, but not only shutting ourselves from our friends and like-minded countries. And I really look towards the United States, State Department, Congress, White House, because we missed you. We missed you at international negotiations and international discussions. And now we need you again to be back as our partners, as a like-minded nation, and as a nation that has and should have great power to say in this field. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me, and I'm looking forward to the panel discussion.
Thanks a lot, Ambassador Kaljurand. Thanks a lot for your words, and we couldn't agree more on cooperation, inclusiveness, multi-stakeholder approach is music to our ears. We don't have much time, but I wanted to let everyone know that there is a Q&A section available. If someone wants to raise any question, this is the way to do it. I will take advantage of my role just to make a question to Mrs. Kaljurand about the upcoming European cybersecurity strategy. We expect for December this to be published. You said Europe as an opportunity to do something important. You mentioned this for data. It could be also for cybersecurity, investment, research, skills. What are in your view the priorities, and how this digital strategy can really be, cybersecurity strategy can really be an opportunity for cooperation and a multilateral approach?
Thank you, Riccardo, and please call me Marina. I think that we will have an important step when we have the review of NIS directive, which will have a view on how, in practical terms, we're working with cybersecurity. I think that Europe has to improve on all levels. Cybersecurity of member states, of the Union, closer cooperation, exchange of data, closer cooperation with NATO. For me, I see that we do not have the link which is working well enough. We still see EU and NATO kind of working separately. And I think that we need educated people, which means that cyber hygiene is today much more topical than it was years ago. And as to the new strategy, I hope that the policymakers will engage, multi-stakeholders will listen to them and will take their advice very seriously. And in the end, the question of finances is important. The words I hear from Commission President von der Leyen about digitalization, cybersecurity are also music to my ears. And then comes the question, where does the money come from? We have for those who are following the debates in the EU at the moment, we're in the final stage of discussing the MFF, our budget for 2021 to 2027. And I do not see where we will have the resources if we do not think about adding additional new resources to the EU budget, because it's in words perfect. But now we need real commitment, and real commitment also from financial resources.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Riccardo, for that, and thank you, Marina, for your remarks. Your point about resources there at the end is always, strikes a chord with me. I started my time in the U.S. government in our Office of Management and Budget, and we used to say that policy without resources is a hallucination. So it's always getting those resources right is very important. So, well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today from Estonia and all the way from over there. So it's another example of how the digital world can be connective as well, and allow people to participate across vast distances. So thank you very much for that. We very much value your time.